You're listening to a Zone Radio podcast. zoneradio.co.za. Blue Oyster Cult and Burning for You. They were a New York-based band. I formed in about 1967. And for a short period of time, everybody knew them as BOC, but it never really took off that. I've never really referred to Blue Oyster Cult as BOC. But I guess Blue Oyster Cult would be some kind of trademark, I guess. And to discuss trademarks this afternoon, we welcome Roy Taberer from Taberer Attorneys into the studio. Now, a while ago, he was on the show with Steve Reed on a Tuesday afternoon speaking all about patents, which we found very, very interesting. But I did ask him a question at the end of the discussion that Tuesday about trademarks. And he kind of gave me this look and said, well, that's a topic all on its own. Welcome to the studio, Roy. Now you can tackle it.
Awesome, Richard. And thank you so very much for inviting me back. And I hope that there was some interesting things I had to say the last time. And I bet you couldn't remember what the difference is between patent, copyright, and trademark.
To me, it's all like like gels into one. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, well, just a very quick recap. So, as to not bore you, let's just say intellectual property, but it's not really intellectual property. It's intangible, stuff that you can't really hold, nothing physical, but it's property and it's valuable. Patents for inventions, copyright for works of art and music, and then trademarks for brands.
Yeah. So Blue Oyster Cult would be a trademark.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. It would be a trademark. The marketing people like to call them brands, but trademark is a legal term. It protects the brand.
Okay. Before we go any further, just explain to folk your company and what you specialize in so that they understand what qualifies you to sit here and tell us about these things.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm attorney. I'm an attorney, but Not the average attorney in the sense that you come to me with wills, estates, and all that matter of
litigation.
Litigation.
Oh
that, my gosh, yes, and a family matter, divorce. No, I would look at you blankly and say, "What is all that?" No, this is all about intellectual property. So you come to me when you have a bright idea, when you want to protect your brand. Or there is some issue around your copyright.
Somebody's challenging you, or something like that.
Someone is challenging you with your copyright. They're copying what you have conceived. Okay. But an attorney and been in the business of intellectual property specifically for a good, 15 years or so, and based in Wynberg. That's where I am, and a patent attorney, essentially.
Okay, we are going to get to trademarks, folks, but there's another interesting question I want to ask Roy is, you never started out like, okay, I want to be a patent attorney. Now, it's an unusual aspect of the law. It's a very specialized aspect of the law. We understand people become divorce lawyers, or they become criminal litigators, or they become conveyancers and people like that. We understand how that happens. But how did you end up saying, okay, I'm going to be a patent attorney? Or was it some sort of fortunate accident? Or how did that happen for you?
Yeah, accident.
Accident.
What it really is to be a patent attorney, you have to have a technical qualification that qualifies you to actually look at something technical, which an invention obviously is.
Over and above law.
Over and above law.
Okay.
Over and above law, you've got a technical underpinning, a BSc or some sort of technical degree. And that was my first degree, and I kind of found my way into this through the back door.
So you first became like a scientist, then a lawyer. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. and a very average scientist at that. Maybe I used to teach.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there's nothing average about teaching. I think teachers, people who do teach, the world owes them a great debt of gratitude. And they're good ones and bad ones, and hopefully you were a good one. But in explaining these things, I would imagine you were a good one. Right. Let's look at trademarks. Let's look at how one deals with trademark. In other words, what in my business would be a trademark?
Your business would be a ZFM. That's your brand. That is what is known out there. That is what. Let's just start and backtrack to say, what is a trademark? A trademark, the best way of describing it is a badge of origin.
Okay.
It's a stamp,
a logo
that says this to the eyes of the public or the ears of the public. This thing, this emblem or this sound, this word directs me to its origin. I know by looking at it that those goods or products or services originate from a particular source.
Okay. All right. So that would be what people would see as what is legally a trademark.
That's right. That's exactly it. So, you're competing in the global marketplace or in the local marketplace, and you want your goods and services to be branded for it to be easily identifiable. When a very quick look with a lot of marketing effort, a very quick look at that brand, people will go, I know the origin, and I hope it's a good
and
origin.
what it stands for.
And what it stands for. And it's not necessarily a good reputation. It could be a bad reputation, but it's a reputation. It's a link between the goods or services that are branded and where it comes from.
Okay.
Badge of origin.
Badge of origin. So a logo would be that.
And a logo is a type of trademark. So trademarks can be word marks, which are perceived by the ear. So you hear word marks, and logos are visual marks. You see logos. So you can file a word mark to a word or a phrase or collection of words, or you can file a device which includes a graphic element with a word in it or not.
So an example of the word, what do you say, the word? A word mark.
A word mark.
Okay, would be something like Yebo Gogo.
Absolutely.
Or Just Do It.
Just Do It. Just Do It is a perfect example of that,
and that there can be ownership of that phrase.
Yeah. And that's a phrase, okay, where you can just have a single word. So, you always go to the very well-known trademarks, which have a very...
Finger-licking good.
But then, and that's Kentucky Fried Chicken, which itself is a trademark. Nike is a trademark. Coca-Cola, very famous, but they are trademarks. But coupled with the word Coca-Cola, you clearly have, other graphic elements which can independently be trademarked, like that wavy form symbol, or with Nike with a swish. You get the picture. So you can file a trademark with it together as the word and the graphic, or the graphic alone, or the word alone. So these big companies have trademark portfolios, with combinations of the elements in their output, in what they are known in the marketplace. So.
My next question is this. Does it have to be registered? Does it have to be documented somewhere? Do I have to come along to you and say, Roy, okay, this is our business. It's Zone Radio. Our tagline is where the music does the talking. This is our logo. Do I have to come along to you and say, okay, I want this documented so nobody can ever use that?
That's, Richard, $1 million question. You don't.
No,
you don't. So then it's, well, why bother? You don't, because a trademark can accrue to you through reputation, through years and years using the trademark consistently. It is known out there, and you get that trademark, a common law trademark. In other words, it's not registered. It's just, it is owned by you, and you can assert it, and you can sue someone if over the years you can prove reputation in the mark. But you can see that reputation takes a long time.
Yeah, and it's a rather kind of...
Absolutely, and the onus is on you to prove reputation. So that's why it's easier just to go the shortcut and go, I'm going to register my trademark. I don't have to prove reputation, and I don't have to sit on the trademark for 10 years imbuing it with some sort of reputation before I can assert it against a third party. Once a trademark's registered, you can assert it. You can say to a third party that is using the mark, the same or similar, stop. So that's the benefit. So it's a quicker way of proving your right. So you can have a common law right, as I've just suggested, or a registered right, which is by way of an application to the trademark office.
Let me ask you, when we spoke about patents and patent law, we were talking about patents being at different levels, national or international or multi-countries and all that type of stuff. Does the same thing apply to trademarks?
It absolutely does. They're all territorially limited. So a country will have its own trademark law, patent law, copyright law, and the rights that are granted in terms of that particular law are territorial. A South African trademark, a South African patent. So if you have a trademark and you want to use the trademark not only in South Africa but elsewhere, yes, it would require use in that country. And if you want a trademark application into the trademark office in that particular country. Okay.
So let's say that I did this just so that people can understand, and I'm using our brand now as the one because it's the one I work with. So we've got his own radio logo, which was designed. I mean, we can prove that, designed by my son. We own that, and the whole design behind that. And let's just use "Where the Music Does the Talking" as the tagline. That I call a tagline, which you would call a word.
Well, it's a tagline, but yes, it's a phrase that can be independently traded.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I register that in this country. And we'll talk about the costs and things, ballpark figures. Now I've done that. It's registered. Nobody in South Africa can use his own radio logo and where the music does the talking. They can't use that because it's registered. But now let's say that this station is broadcast into the United States via streaming or something, and somebody over there is using where the music does the talking as a tagline. They can challenge us in that country, even though we are using the internet and streaming it, and we don't have any control of where it's going.
Yes. So if they have the trademark there, because they've been using it before you, so it's all about prior. Who's the first in terms of who's got the common law rights or who's got the registered right? If they've got a prior right and you are streaming it into that country, yes, there would be a trademark dispute potentially. But the question then is, but how do you assert it? Because you don't have any presence in that country. So it's all local. In America, they're going to have to sue you in America, but you don't exist in America. You're not a resident in America. So it all falls down at that point. It's not like they don't have the right. It's just, who do they go after? A South African resident?
Yeah.
So that's the complication with that.
So there is some protection in that with what we do. But let's say that I was making widgets.
Yes.
Okay, and I was using a widget and exporting it into a country that was saying widgets are us as their...
Spot on.
I've got a problem.
You've got a problem there because then your importer, who is a US importer,
and reseller,
yeah, absolutely, he's going to be targeted, and the goods at the very least are going to be confiscated in terms of a infringement action, and that's the point at which they will get remedy.
Okay, so important takeaway here is if somebody in this country is an importer of goods and a reseller of goods, to make sure that those goods, because with those goods comes their own marketing, their own packaging, their own branding, their own taglines on their packaging, and. So let's say this stuff arrives here, it's important as an importer and possibly a reseller to ensure that the trademarks on those things are permitted in this country. Otherwise, that whole thing is going to fall flat.
Right. Okay, so permitted is probably not the right word, because permitted would mean that some state institution is having an issue, SARS or whatever. No, because this is all private law. This is not, the state's not interested. You can import, you can pay your duty, you can import someone who has the registered right or common law right to the mark that is on those goods that have been imported. They will have an issue and they can stop and confiscate the goods. But it's quite rare because most imported goods come with their own very well-known brands. And, when you talk about well-known brands, those are the very few brands. They kind of are their own class that don't really need to be registered in the country to actually have a reputation.
Well, Nike would be one of them.
Nike is one of them. Yeah. They don't have to come and register.
No.
It's got such international repute that actually in the Trademark Act it's recognized as a special class.
Okay.
So those it'll be very difficult to do that. And anyway, someone who's trying to squat on a well-known brand's reputation in South Africa and surreptitiously file a trademark, knowing that it's not trademarked in South Africa, they're going to have a problem because the Trademark Office is just going to throw it out. It's a well-known brand. It has its own reputation. It has its own classification.
So the fact that they're not registered here, they haven't come along to you and said, Roy, listen, register us in this country. And I go along and I try to do just do it.
Malafide, bad intent.
Somebody's going to. I'm going to get hammered.
You're going to get hammered because you're going to use a well-known trademark and you're not going to get it registered. The trademark is alive to well-known trademarks.
Now I want to come to another thing. I still want to get to cost, but I think the cost is a short discussion at the bottom. It is expensive, not expensive. We see a lot of spoofing going on. We see a lot of things that people, you're wearing a T-shirt, I'm wearing a T-shirt. People put logos on T-shirts, and I'm sure that they have to have rights to do that if it's a Just Do It T-shirt. What about when people are making? I've seen one. Just do it, and then it's got the text there, and then the swish is a sperm cell.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one example that I've seen.
Yeah.
Where people are doing that to banks. A lot of banks get
Yeah.
that kind of thing happening.
Right.
What's the law there?
Yeah.
Are we infringing trademark or anything like that when we make a funny T-shirt out of a well-known sort of tagline
Yeah.
or logo?
No, you're not.
Oh,
You're not, because you're not using it as a trademark. You're using it.
As a joke.
It as a joke.
yeah.
If you have to infringe. You've got to use the trademark that's registered by the party, and the same or similar. Not doesn't have to be the same. It can be the same or similar, but it's got to be used as a trademark. You've got to be using that mark as a badge of origin. In other words, you're saying, I'm not going to do the hard work. I'm not going to build up a reputation. I'm just going to kind of sail on the coattails of this well-known brand, and I'm going to sell goods and services under this, and I'm going to sail close to the wind. You're trying to use it as a trademark. If you're just applying a mark as a joke to a T-shirt once off or twice, and not selling the T-shirts under that brand, because you've got your own brand.
Yes, okay.
But you've got you've got the
Helcom was a perfect one.
Helcom, absolutely.
Yeah, Helcom is a perfect one. It looks for the world like a Telcom logo, but inside instead of the font is different.
Correct,
Yeah.
and the public recognizes this, and it's made a joke. They recognize it, but they're not saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, that person is selling Telcom T-shirts." Is using the Telcom or a mark similar to Telcom to sell T-shirts. That those T-shirts must come from Telcom.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
So the issue of damages, for want of a better term, would be one more of a reputational damage to the brand that is being spoofed, and it won't be anything to do with trademark.
Yeah, that's more kind of you going down defamation,
Yeah. Okay, which is a different thing.
Yeah, and then there's a defense to that,
Yeah.
being that it is there not for the intent of defaming, but there is another intent. Yeah.
Folks, if anybody's got a question, I'm fascinated by this. I literally could keep this man here for the next 2 hours talking about this. I really do. I could. But if you have a question, 072 447 8044. All right, what are the general mistakes people make with trademarks when that you discover? Someone can walk to your office and they put some stuff down in front of you and you say, well, listen, you really are barking up the wrong tree. And you see that more often in one area or another. What are the common areas?
Yeah, common errors. Describing. Using a trademark or a descriptive trademark. So you want, it's counterintuitive. You want to use or create a trademark that doesn't describe your goods and services. Why? To distinguish yourself. Because if everyone calls themselves Mike's Meat or which describes
Joe's soap.
Joe's soap. You're describing that you make soap.
Yeah.
And you want that as a trademark. Well, okay.
Yeah.
However, it's not very strong. Why? Because there's so many people that if they're in the soap business, they're going to be Joe's soap or Paul's soap, and it loses its distinctiveness. And a trademark to be powerful must be distinctive. A person looks at it and goes, I get it. That is very different from anything else I have seen. And it makes it a powerful badge of origin. But if it's clouded with a lot of similar phrases, marks, words, it's a weak trademark. It's a descriptive trademark. So the more you move away from it being descriptive and just not having any bearing on the goods and services, so it is completely arbitrary. And you think about Apple and how Apple is now synonymous with computers, but at one point in its history, it had no bearing. What is an Apple to computer? What a perfect trademark. So that's the first thing, because the reputation and the distinctiveness comes with time, and people are lazy. They want a trademark to describe their goods and services. Well, use a tagline or use their company name, but don't use a trademark. Get creative. Create something that is absolutely divorced right now from the goods and services, but will acquire
you can build it.
Distinctiveness.
Well, the Apple one is actually quite an interesting one. I don't know if you were aware of it, but Apple, and there were two Apples in the world at one stage. Yeah. One was a record label, I think owned by the Beatles, and the other was a computer company, and there was a conflict there at one stage. I don't know what the resolution was. We know that the one no longer exists and the other one does. And the other one is the one that's entrenched in our minds, again, because a good trademark requires the backup of good marketing.
Absolutely. Years and years. And then that marketing, and that's the thing, because you've got a badge of origin, which is worthless at the beginning. So when you go and file your trademark, it has no worth. But years and years of marketing effort, going on the radio, punting your product, punting your brand, selling great goods and services, eventually that badge of origin, which is now linked to you, that link is now growing in goodwill. So the goodwill in all of that marketing effort accrues to the brand. And that brand then can be licensed or sold. It creates a wealthy asset over time. There's no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. All right. I'm going to now longevity of trademarks. Years ago, there was a wonderful ad that if I said this now, most people would know what I'm talking about. It's not inside, it's on top. Most people would know I'm talking about a brand called Cremora. I think the brand still exists. I'm not too sure, but let's assume that it does. All right. But they're no longer really using that. Now, if I came out with something where I wanted to use that, it's not inside, it's on top, is there a time frame in which they can still claim to it, or like a prescription period or something along those lines?
There's two aspects to that question. The first is, the simple answer is no. A trademark, unlike a patent, doesn't expire. A patent expires in 20 years, falls into the public domain. A trademark, by the very nature that a trademark grows in value, a patent decays in value. It would be tragic for a person to spend 10 years of marketing effort in growing a brand for it to be taken away from him. So a trademark owner every 10 years would just pay one renewal fee and get it renewed for another 10 years and another 10 years, and they can carry on.
Trademark owner
in perpetuity. So it doesn't expire and it doesn't fall away. So if you keep that trademark on the register every 10 years, you have it forever. The Cremora owner could have a trademark and could keep it on the register, even though
they're not using
it. Okay, that's the first part to the question. The second part is, however, trademarks, and we've never mentioned this before, are class specific. So there are 52 classes, I'm probably wrong, 52, 53 classes of goods or services. And they're buckets. And you get a trademark in a particular bucket, a bucket describing your goods and services. So they've
alongside similar.
Yes, they've sliced and diced the whole possible goods and services offering that the world has. They've sliced it and diced into 52 categories. And you apply, and you describe your goods and services, well, T-shirts or clothing or caps. That's a specific class. You get a trademark in that class. If someone is using your mark in another very different class, it's okay, because you can't monopolize a word over the entire extent.
So for argument's sake, if I was a motivational speaker trying to get people to implement action plans, I could use Just Do It, because it would be a different class.
There you are skirting very close, because we're now dealing with well-known trademarks, and they're
in a different bucket.
They're in a different. They're actually they're actually have their own law. Okay. And so all of the rules that I'm talking about break down when you're dealing with well-known trademarks. Okay. But for everything else, yes, you could.
Okay.
Because if your goods and services are not in the bucket in which that trademark is registered, it's okay.
So if I was selling bedspreads,
it's
not inside, it's on top.
Spot on.
Could work.
It could work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very, very interesting. We're going to have to get you back, because we haven't even touched on copyright yet. So we're going to definitely get you back, but we're running out of time now. From a point of view of cost, and is it actually worth? Let me ask you this question: is it worthwhile to invest in it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is because for a cost of we're talking here about 5,000, 4,000, 5,000 rand, depending on how many classes you want to file into, because it's class specific. 4,000 or 5,000 rand. What do you get? You get peace of mind that you're stopping other people from monopolizing that mark in that particular class, and allows you the freedom to put marketing effort without someone jumping the gun and taking your spot on the register with respect to that mark. As I say, because the only other way of getting it is through reputation, and by the time you've got reputation, someone's probably already using it. So just get the registration, peace of mind, and it's not a company name. The trademark is different from the company name.
It could be the same thing, but it's not necessarily.
Exactly, it could be the same thing, but people get confused. Oh, I've got a trademark. No, but it's a company name, on the company registry.
Okay, so that's a very different thing. Is there anything else that you want to mention that I haven't asked about?
That's pretty much it. You've covered. Because I wanted to just to put that in that, the confusion between the company's registry and the trademark.
Very different.
Very different. Oh, I've got a company's registration, a company name.
Yeah.
That's your name. That's your legal name. But Sting is the brand, and I forget his name.
Gordon Sumner.
That's his legal name.
Yes, that's his legal name. And this man's legal name is Roy Taberer. And if you want to find out more, go have a look at their Facebook page, Taberer Attorney. Sorry, I keep putting the N in there. I do apologize, Roy. It's Taberer.
That's it.
Attorneys. Go check out. We will put this on a podcast. There will be links, as we did last time, to their Facebook page and website and the like. But I definitely think we need to get you back, because we haven't touched on copyright yet, which is another very misunderstood thing, because we see the little C and we wonder what that means and whether we should in fact have it there or not have it there. So maybe next month we'll get you back in, if you don't mind.
Awesome.
To give us your time and chat to us about that. Thank you very much for coming in this afternoon. We really do appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Richard.